Well, time for another corporate interaction then. L&T Finance, that's the stock on our radar for Q3. The dispersals were weak, margins saw a sharp decline, while the gross NPA ratio is at a 4-quarter high. To speak about the past quarter and the way ahead, we're joined by Sudipta Roy, the Managing Director, as well as the CEO at L&T. Good morning, Mr. Roy. Thanks a lot for joining in. Well, you were sounding quite optimistic about Q3, but dispersals, well, they were quite tepid. What happened in the past quarter? If you could explain to us what is the run rate you're looking at in terms of dispersals for the fourth quarter, and what does it mean in terms of AUM growth for FY25 and FY26? Please go ahead.
Yeah, so if you see the disbursements that we did in Q3 at 15,210 crores were actually the highest ever for L&T Finance. So in a way, but what we have done actually is that if you look at the sectoral disbursements, obviously we have done adjustments within the sectoral disbursements. We tapered down our disbursements in our rural business finance, which is our JLG segment, microfinance JLG segment. And we sort of calibrated it, obviously, in view of the current macro situations in the microfinance industry. In terms of our tractor disbursements, our actual tractor disbursements were actually very, very good. In fact, our highest ever tractor disbursements we saw in the month of October. So overall, on the back of good monsoons, we had a very good quarter in terms of tractor disbursements. In terms of two-wheeler, yes, two-wheeler was a little bit of a range-bound disbursement, primarily because we focused more on quality customer, onboarding quality customers in the two-wheeler business. And as you can see, what we put out in an analyst report is that a prime share of our two-wheelers is close to about 65 to 70% in terms of onboarding. In terms of personal loans, actually our personal loans disbursement did quite well. You will see on a year-on-year basis, our personal loans disbursement has grown by almost close to 94%, albeit on a lower base. Okay. And in our SME disbursements also remain on a sort of range-bound pattern. So overall, yes, the disbursements from a sequential point of view did not move much, primarily because of the conscious call to temper down our disbursements in the JLG microfinance sector, primarily because of the ongoing credit challenges in this sector. However, we remain hopeful that as and when we see signs of tempering down of the sort of the credit stress in the microfinance sector, we will be able to resume our risk-calibrated growth pattern going forward.
But what is the run rate then? 15,000 crores of quarterly run rate. You seem quite satisfied with the performance in Q3. For Q4, what kind of disbursals should we look at? And what does it mean in AUM growth? If you could help us out in percentage terms.
See, right now, this quarter-on-quarter basis, our AUM growth has been around 23% odd. So the fact is that, again, the critical thing is that what is the pace of the microfinance and the JLG disbursement in the next quarter as well. Given the fact that we do not expect full resolution of
Mr. Roy, the 23% you're talking about is in the farm equipment business, right? The year-on-year growth.
No, so overall retail book, we are talking about a 23% growth rate on a year-on-year basis, and the console book grew by about 16%. But the retail book, if I talk about a year-on-year basis between Q3 of this Q3 and the Q3 of the previous year, there's been a 23% growth in terms of the retail book. Sure. In terms of disbursement trajectory, we expect, typically Q4 is a strong quarter in BFSI. Typically, BFSI exhibits a strong quarter trends. However, one thing we would like to point out is that our disbursement trajectory in Q4 will be risk-calibrated. We will not take any unnecessary risks during this quarter, and we are not chasing any sort of headline number during this quarter. We are very, very clear that whatever disbursements that we do will be risk-calibrated, such that the risk outcome is positive. So we are hopeful that we should be able to maintain the same trajectory as we saw in Q3 FY25. However, as I said again, I will reiterate that point again, that we are not chasing any numbers, and all our disbursement will be risk calibrated. So we will disburse according to the market risk perception as we see.
Which is why, Mr. Roy, if you could just give us some more color and let's dive a little deeper. Rural, JLG, rural, these are big segments for you, and you've gone slow, both quarter-on-quarter and year-on-year. Yes. If the same trend plays out, because you're saying that you're going to be very, very risk-calibrated, if the same plays out in Q4 and you go slow on these segments, then what should we expect in terms of total AUM growth for FY25? And within these segments, what is the qualitative input on stress? I mean, overall, the gross NPA has gone up a little bit. But within rural, within micro, Are you expecting more stress to build up in the coming quarter?
See, I'll take your last portion of the question first. In the site is that we have seen some green shoots of recovery in this quarter. If you look at the collection efficiency numbers that we put out, our collection efficiency improved to about 99.49% in December. And in January also, we remain in a holding pattern. So given the fact that we have seen good monsoons, we have seen good Kharif arrivals, and the Rabi sowing has also been good, we are hopeful that the rural liquidities will improve in Q4 FY25, and such that our collections efficiencies will probably be on a improvement trajectory. However, the exact improvement trajectory needs to be seen. Overall, though we have guided as part of the Lakshya targets to have a 25% year-on-year growth target, what we'll try to do is that try to see as to whether we are able to sort of close the year at an overall AUM growth on a year-on-year basis of above 20%. That is what we will try to look at. Some of the lines of businesses are growing well, though we have purposefully downward calibrated the disbursements in the RBF segment. Some of the segments, even in the RBF segment, we are sort of focusing on disbursing to non-leveraged customers, sort of expanding in the non-leveraged markets like AP and Telangana, where our collection efficiency continued to be 100%, Western UP, where our collection efficiency continued to be 100%, Western Maharashtra. So certain non-leveraged markets, we are trying to penetrate a little more, as well as try to improve our focus on even in the markets that we operate in, focused on customers that have lower leverage. So we're trying to see as to whether we can keep our disbursement momentum even in RBF risk calibrated, but still on a forward trajectory. We are growing the personal loans business. Most of our digital partnerships are firing up well. You can see on a year-on-year basis, our personal loans business has grown by almost close to 94%, albeit on a lower base. And again, the two-wheeler business, again, we are seeing a resumption of, we saw a dip in the two-wheeler disbursements in the month of December after a reasonably good October and
Mr. Roy.
We are seeing again the disbursement momentum coming in back in the month of January. So overall, 20% plus on a year-on-year basis is what we are targeting.
Yeah, Mr. Roy got that point, 20% growth in business. But if you could just elaborate on that, you said you're seeing some green shoots. You mentioned collection efficiency looking good in some markets. But tell us about the gross NPA levels at company-wide level. How do you see the gross NPA figure trending? And also specifically for MFI, what can you guide on in terms of the NPA levels?
So see, if you see our GS3 numbers, our GS3 numbers are currently at about 3.23%, has gone up marginally from 3.19% in last quarter. But obviously, we have used about 100 crores of macroprudential provisions this quarter. Next quarter, and this is primarily focused on our rural business finance book, as some of the sort of the stress assets have keep on flowing and sort of finally, come into the provisioning status. We expect that, some of our credit costs will remain elevated also next quarter. So, next quarter, we expect that our GS3 numbers and our NS3 numbers will go up again sequentially slightly more. And that is why we have sort of kept a provision, and we have said that we have used 100 crores of the macroprudential provisions this quarter, and next quarter we have kept provision for about 300 to 350 crores of macroprudential provision usage next quarter. If you see on a quarter-on-quarter basis, our GS3 has gone up by about 100 crores odd, and on a year-on-year basis, our GS3 has gone up by about 450 crores odd. I expect, similar about 100 to 150 crores addition to the GS3 number next quarter as well.
Got it. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. Good luck, and we'll speak again soon.